Yeah, hello friends. Good evening. This is Master RB Ramesh from Prochesstraining. I hope the audio is clear. Can you please indicate in the chat message if the audio is clear? Yeah, hello Aditya. It's Mayur. Is my audio clear? Okay, good. Fine. So today's session, as usual, every week we have been giving some training positions for Prochesstraining subscribers, and they play against players of similar strength or slightly higher in their group, and this is mainly to expose them to different kinds of positions, sometimes some interesting in game, sometimes some positional theme, sometimes some attack calculation, and so on. So this way they not only play positions which they get from their openings, but they are also able to play positions which are completely new to them. And one of the important aims of chess preparation is to expose ourselves to variety of positions, so that when we are forced to think in a new situation in a tournament game, we will be able to do it without making many mistakes. Generally what happens, most of the players when they prepare, they see games only from their openings. Suppose I play d4 with white side, I try to see games only where white plays d4, or if I play some Sicilian knight off with black against e4, then e4 black games I see only from Sicilian knight off. If it is some e4 e5 or Ilopus or a French or Caracan, I'm not very interested because I don't play those openings. So many players make this kind of mistake. One of the thing, I have to increase my volume. Not enough. Any other feedback? Aditya says my volume is a bit low. How about others? Can you please give some feedback on the chat message? Is the audio good enough, or should I? It's all good. Okay. So Aditya, it looks like you have to make some adjustment from your side. Okay. I will try to be as loud as possible. Okay, fine. So most of the players, what we do, we try to see positions on openings which we play, and as a result what happens when some new position comes, then not very clear. Okay, please hold on. Is it any better? Hello? Yeah, okay, fine. So generally what we should do, we should put ourselves in new situations. Okay, we should always put ourselves in new situations and find out how we think, because that is what happens in most of our tournament games. After a few initial opening moves, inevitably we will reach positions where the position is completely new, and we have to solve some practical problems over the board. So every day when you are training, put yourselves in new situations and find out how you think. So the position on the screen is a very famous game, Efim Geller versus Max Euwe, played in 1953 Zurich International. There is a fantastic book by David Bronstein on this topic, on this tournament. The name of the book is Zurich International 1953, and this is a very famous game from that book. But since there are so many good games over the decades, it is very much possible that many of us have missed many of those good games. So that's why I thought I will give a position from the classics. Okay, so white has sacrificed a pawn, the c4 pawn, in the initial few moves, and he reached this position and he has some good attacking chances, right? Queen h5 is coming, and also he is threatening something like fe6 followed by e5, opening the bishop diagonal. Okay, already the other bishop is facing here, so you can see that white is having very good chances to create an attack. And normally what happens when we are under attack, we tend to panic. We think, oh my god, I am coming under attack and I don't know how to defend. But in such situations what we should do, we should not panic, we should keep calm, and we should try to create counter attacking chances. Okay, one important thing is do not play on the side where we are weak. Generally that's what they say, but here it is an exception. Okay, black can actually play h6 here, so that queen h5 and all will not be very powerful anymore. And if he takes bishop h6, now we don't take sorry, not in this position. Generally it's better to avoid pawn moves on the side where you are weak, so it's better to avoid moves like g6 and h6. This is the general principle. And like I said, it's always better to create our own counter attack. When opponent is attacking us on one side of the board, we should not try to defend in that side. Instead, we should try to attack something else, somewhere else. So here he is attacking in the king side, so we should do something in the center or queen side. But queen side, even if we win some pawns on the queen side, and if we get checkmated on the king side, it doesn't make sense. So queen side counterplay does not look to make sense here, and we should try to create counterplay on the center. So that's what he did. He played queen b6. Now this is a nice move, and here pawn is under attack, and it is not easy to defend this pawn. And we are also threatening to play something like e5 if the bishop goes back. Okay, and we won't be able to open the diagonal with fe6. So he played e5 directly. Now the rook is guarding the d4 pawn. This is the point. Now here in this position, he took knight e5 in the game, which is also good, but the best move is h6, which breaks the principle. What principle? Generally, as we say, do not make pawn moves on the side where we are weak. And after bishop h6, the idea is not to take g6, but to take knight e5 now, and then we are threatening to take knight into d3. Okay, so this is the correct way to refute or create counterplay against white's attack. Okay, but in the game he played knight e5 directly without including h6 bh6. He played knight e5 directly, and let's see what happens in this case. He took fe6. Now the pawn is under attack. Threat is bishop h7 check. So it took knight d3. And one important principle is when you are coming under attack, it makes sense to exchange pieces, right? When you are coming under attack, try to exchange pieces. Now queen h7 is a threat, and here you see how calmly and coolly black plays. He took queen e6. He is not defending h7. If we panic in such situations, we will try to think, how can I defend my h pawn? So we will be coming up with moves like g6 or h6 or f5. We will be seeing these type of moves. But you see how strong players think. When they are under attack, they are not trying to defend, but they are trying to create counter attack. And what is the counter attack? One immediate threat is queen e1 check. Okay, now you can play h6 or g6, all this stuff. So white has to take queen h7, king f7. Now what we can learn from this example is that even though his king is coming under attack, he is not bowing down and becoming defensive. This is one of the key things we have to learn. So like I said, queen e1 is a threat. There is also another threat, which is rook c1 check, rook into c1, queen e3 check, and then queen into c1 will go with check. Okay, so there are multiple threats, and you can see that the bishop is very active, the rook on the open file is active, the queen is also quite active, right? So three big pieces black has managed to make active. Yes, if we just go few moves behind, if we go here, let's say one move behind, now look, this is not so active, and the rook is also blocked by our knight. But after this point, suddenly black's pieces are becoming active. So you have to, that's why I say normally two most important things in chess: king safety, keep your king safe, and second is to keep your pieces active. So the piece activity, when you are coming under attack, when you are a pawn down, exchange down, whatever, in most cases the piece activity will give you counterplay. Okay, so we have to believe in this piece activity. and here there is no forced win or anything for white. Okay, so now if he plays check, I can even consider king e7, idea king d8, run to safety, or I can play g6, queen h7, knight g7. Both are interesting possibilities. Now in the game he played bishop h6. This is mainly to stop queen e1 check threat and also rook into c1 check, which I explained some time back. So to prevent both these threats, he played this. Now the position is very unclear, and during the game we won't know who is winning, who is better, because the position is so complex. We cannot be sure and say white is winning or black is winning, right? But we don't need to know who is better. We just have to keep our pieces active and hope for the best. Okay, so here black came up with a brilliant move. Maybe I can flip the board. Now he came up with a very brilliant idea, rooks h8. So you see, this game was played in 1953, almost 70 years ago. How creative players were. It is not everything home preparation. It is not like checking every move with analytical engines. They are playing creatively over the board. They are facing some problems and they are solving those problems over the board. Now this is what a chess player has to learn. Okay, we will always face new situations, unfamiliar situations, situations we don't like, we don't know what to do, how to handle. It doesn't matter. We don't need to know answer for all the questions. We only need the confidence that I can find the answers. Okay, for any problem I face, I can find the answer myself. And this confidence, how one can get with good preparation. Okay, when we do good preparation, when we are constantly learning new things, good things, we will feel that confidence. Okay, but if you are seeing chess and we are not learning much, we are not teaching ourselves how to think. Instead, if we just keep seeing game after game after game, then we will only increase our knowledge. You will know about lot of things. If I show some game, you will say, hey, I have seen this game, I have seen that game. So you will have good knowledge, but you cannot handle the problems yourself because we are not training ourselves. So when you are training, it is very important that you put yourself in different situations, especially in difficult situations, and try to find your way out. Now if you do this regularly in your home preparation, when you have to do that in a tournament situation, you will be well equipped, well trained. Okay, so you see he is coming under attack and he is finding a solution. Okay, and it is not a bad solution. Okay, so he took queen h8, more or less forced. Why? Because the queen was controlling the c2 square. Okay, ideally what black wants to do, how to find moves like rook h8. One, it is a forcing move. So whenever you are analyzing concrete positions, you have to give importance to forcing moves. But let us say I don't see rook h8 type of moves, but how can I teach myself to find such moves? Okay, so let's think logically. Ideally, this pawn is under attack by the bishop, so I would want to bring one more attack, right? So maybe queen d5, something like that, right? Or so I would prefer to play queen d5 to create a mating net. Queen e4, queen e3, queen e2, they are not coming. Or I would like to play rook c2 to attack, right? So these two moves are very attractive, queen d5 and rook c2. So if we think logically, we can say rook c2 means queen c2 is coming. So I eliminate rook c2. So I play queen d5, right? So this is one way to think. But the problem is, after queen d5, we should also see what my opponent will do, because we are threatening mate in 1. So if it's going to be mated, then there's not much we need to analyze. So how can he stop this mate? He has to block the diagonal, knight e4 or rook e4, right? So here rook e4 is good. Now what is the point of rook e4? He is simply going to play rook e1 double and play rook e7 check, and suddenly the black king will be in trouble, and we are not able to move the knight because queen g7 mate, right? Is blitz good for intermediate player? So I got a question in the chat. or concentrate on longer format to find this type of active defense and increase calculation ability. See, nowadays, because of the lockdown, the over the board tournaments are not happening, so players are looking at for alternatives, and online chess is filling that gap. But I don't think online chess will be the main basis for deciding world champions and all. We might have a completely separate online blitz championship, rapid championship, and so on, but I don't think it will replace over the board chess. And we will be judged, and we want to be known as an over the board player, right? So if that is what you are looking at, then you should focus on over the board tournaments. And when the tournaments are not happening, to keep some practice, you can play online games, but don't take it too seriously, the result wise. But your effort wise, of course, you should try to play a good game all the time. But use this time when there are no tournaments to upgrade your skills. Teach yourself how to think, how to analyze, how to look at positions, how to find moves, how to analyze the moves. This is what you should be focusing a lot on. Okay, so let's go to the position. So you can see that if queen d5, rook e4, he is having a threat of rook e1, rook e7, and there is no good way to include the other pieces. Okay, so probably black's only way to counter that idea is like this. Okay, but here he can play rook e2, and now if rook e2, black is fine, white is fine. Okay, there is no mating attack. And if queen d4 check, bishop e3 will come after rook e2. Okay, so this is one possibility, but he played rook h8. Queen h8 is more or less forced, and the idea is rook c2. So this is what happened in the game, and this is the final critical moment in the game. Here we are threatening rook g2, and there is no knight e4 or rook e4 because bishop e4 is coming, right? So he cannot block, and there is no good way to save the pawn. So this is the whole point of the rook sacrifice. Rook g2 is going to come, and after rook g2, king f1, queen c4 checkmate. Okay, so this is the threat. So he played rook c1 to stop that queen c4 check, and he lost very quickly. Now discovered check is certain, so this is forced. Now queen c4 is not possible. That is why he played rook c1, but he lost very quickly after queen b3. He prevented queen c4, but now queen d3 check or queen f3 check is coming, and it's over for black. He played here, and anyway queen f3. Oh, it's lost. Okay, so he resigned. But there was a very brilliant defense possible, which is instead of rook c1, he can play d5. Now these type of moves are very important. For a good player, we have to find such moves. What is the point of this move? Now if I take with bishop and then you play rook c4, you understand? So now if you take with the bishop, then I won't get that queen b3 finally. Nice. Okay, so but the point is, if I play rook c1, because the d4 pawn is not there, now this comes with a check. And if king h1, bg2 checkmate. Okay, and if king f1, queen f2 checkmate is coming. So here rook c1 is bad, but he can play rook d1. Okay, now if you give queen b6 check, rook d d4, and suddenly it is white who is winning. Okay, it has completely changed. Now rook f1 check, king f1. Now the point is, queen is not able to join the attack. Okay, whereas the white king can come under, sorry, the black king can come under attack. Okay, so here queen b6 is not good. Instead he should take rook g2 check, king f1, and rook a2. So I have some engine analysis in this position, and now the best move is bd2, blocking this second rank, and also the queen can come back into the game with queen h5 check. Okay, and it will end in a perpetual check. Let me show how. Here Now only check is this and here and only check, and this is a perpetual check draw. There is no win for black. Everywhere black is having, white is having the defense. Okay, because the queen is coming back into the game and the rook is cut off from the attack. Okay, fine. So this is what he should have done, but the other thing is for d5 he cannot take queen d5. Now he will play rook e4. Okay, so this is no more under attack. And if queen c5 check, we have bishop e3. Okay, if queen c5, bishop e3 is coming. Now the threat is queen into e8, and if the knight moves, queen g7 mate. Okay, suddenly it is white who is winning. So d5, queen d5 is not possible. He has to take bd5, and after rook d1, this is a forced draw like we saw. Okay, fine. Let us go to the next position in the training. That is, this one is not very big, and this one was given by Sureshekar Ganguly, this position, and I searched for this position in the database. I could not find it. Probably he got it from some analysis he made, and this was the second position which was given for playing out. And here if you see, the pawns are fixed in white color, right? And this dark square bishop is very nice. This square is very good for both the knight and the queen, but unfortunately the bishop on e3 is controlling that. And if you see, you can already imagine that if you can keep your pieces in the dark squares, you can create a fantastic blockade on the dark squares. Okay, so here the critical move is this. So it was the bishop that was controlling all the important dark squares. So we remove this and we can calmly play a move like rook e8. Okay, and this is all we have to know from this position. Basically this decision is a good decision or not. This is what we should know. And here black has fantastic compensation. Not just compensation, if you see this rook, once a move like knight c5 happens, the rook won't have much of a job. Okay, so the only weaknesses in black's position which white can attack is these two pawns, right? But they are very easily defendable and not very easy to attack also. And this pawn, white will eventually lose. They are already threatening, and we can get queen c5, bishop h6, all these kind of pressures. That is possible. Okay, so here the point is, it is black who is in the driver's seat after this exchange sacrifice, because the nature of the position has changed drastically, and we can use these squares to park our pieces in the dark squares. Okay, so let me just show few sample variations. Now let us say he plays rook f3 to defend this pawn. Now knight c5 is a possibility. You can play this, and you can just sit on dark squares. Maybe something like put the rook on e5, queen on e7, bishop on h6, king on g7. So you can just imagine the position, no? All complete domination on the dark squares. So knight c5 is possible, but you can also play bishop to h6. And if you try to save the pawn like this, then I can play queen a5, exploiting the pin. Now I'm going to take like rook into e3. Okay, now the queen is overloaded. It is defending e3 pawn and also the b4 rook. Okay, so the bishop h6 is critical move. Now he can consider a3. This way the queen is relieved of the job to defend the b4, but now we take this pawn. So even though this a3 pawn looks to be a pawn in the corner of the board, from a3 it is not just sitting in the corner, it is still retaining the pressure on both the rook and the pawn. So he has to take rook into b7, and now we don't have to move the knight or defend the knight immediately. We can play an intermediate move. I'm sorry. So now this discovered is there, like rook of 3 is being threatened. And after rook e3, if he moves the queen, then I can take rook of 3, bishop of 3. Now instead of putting the knight on c5, I can put the knight on e5, which blocks any checks along this diagonal after rook b8, and the king will feel very safe on g7. f7 is very well defended, and if required the queen can come here, if required. It's not necessary, but this king will not feel safe. And in such positions, what you can do, you can simply roll the a pawn also. That will create a distraction, and when the white pieces go to stop the a pawn, we will attack on the king side. Now there is a principle in opposite color bishop. Now we have opposite color bishops, right? In opposite color bishops, the attacking side or the side with the positional advantage has the advantage. So black has an attack against the white king. He also has positional advantage in the form of black square bind. So black is clearly better here. Okay, so the rook e3 sacrifice is the critical decision. We may see that, we may be convinced it is reasonably good, but will we find the courage to play it, to take the decision in a tournament game? That is what this portion is more about. Okay, so we saw two interesting positions today, and in a short while, in a few minutes from now, Grandmaster Magesh Chandran from Prochess Training, he will be coming and analyzing the positions which was given for group 1. So these were the positions given for group 2 to 4, and in Prochess Training we have 5 groups based on the rating of the players, and we have more than 30 grandmasters who are teaching in our platform, and we'll be getting more grandmasters as well. So for those of you who have not joined our academy, online academy, please consider so, and our website is www.prochesstraining.com, and you will find all the details, and we have many top grandmasters who will be joining us as well. Okay, fine. So thank you very much. Have a good day. Bye everyone.